Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the bi-weekly YCP TA webinar. My name is Heather Lawrence. I'm a business analyst with Illinois WorkNet. Joining us on the webinar is Olivia Miller, who is a training and development specialist with Illinois WorkNet, and Shannon Hampton, who is the grant manager for YCP with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Before we start, I'd like to cover some housekeeping items. When you join the webinar, you join muted. Please remain muted until the presentation has ended. At that time, you may unmute yourself and ask questions. If you have questions during the presentation, please type those into the chat. This webinar is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the YCP Partner Guide by the end of this week. I will now turn things over to Shannon to get us kicked off.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Tara is unable to join us today, so I'm going to quickly go over a couple things on our end. The first thing is the modification extensions for the grants. Almost all of you have probably seen your executed extension that was approved. A few of you are still going through the system with paperwork issues or kickbacks from legal and fiscal. So I'm working with those people individually, but as a whole, we're almost everyone has finished the date extension. So we're extremely happy about that. And then the second thing really quickly is the financial reporting. It's coming up. They're due on the 30th, your PPR and PFR. So we just wanted to quickly remind you where you can find those tools, especially we know that there's been some turnover and there's some new faces this year. So if you go to, or Olivia is going to show you right now on WorkNet where you can access the PPR and PFR.
Yeah, so we want to make sure we're going to our YCP Partner Guide, which I know you all have bookmarked on your browser for quick and easy access. And then you're going to go to your full list of resources. And then under the Fiscal section, you can either scroll down to Fiscal, or if you just click Fiscal right here, it'll pop you down to that section. This whole top section and related resources, you can find your PFR trial balance cover, your PPR, and your PPR support cover. And then you can also find the instructions that DCO put together on doing this. It used the grant period for here. So some information may need to be tweaked for this newest round, but all that information is in your full list of resources in the YCP Partner Guide. Shannon, is there anything else you wanted to cover on that?
Just that if you have questions as you're doing these, make sure to reach out to Tara and I as soon as possible. And then some of you that have been doing this for a long time and know how to do it and want to start getting those in, if you could just send them to both Tara and I, that would be very helpful.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Shannon. Do you guys have any questions on that before we move on to some of our technical topics? Alrighty, so I am going to jump over to the YCP test platform. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is the worksite placement. We have talked about this before. I specifically want to talk about payroll. So from my YCP customer list, if I just click this icon right here, that will get me to the worksite placement tool. This is where I enter in all my work sites and can manage those in my employers for those work sites. And I can also upload my payroll. You guys will not see this payroll management tab. That's something our super admins see to be able to approve submitted payrolls. We want to make sure that everybody that is doing work experience, worksite placement, any of those, that you guys are uploading those payrolls. So to do that, you just come to this payroll tab and you're going to click this add payroll section. And there are 5 steps that you can walk through to upload that payroll. You'll enter the pay period start date. Let's do, and the pay period end date. And then you'll download the payroll template. Oh, got to select a project. And this should already be auto defaulted to your guys' organizations. Once you select the download payroll template button, it is going to create a template that you can use based on the date frame you guys put in. You guys will be able to come in and enter in the hours worked for each of the customers during that pay period. If you have a customer who did not work that pay period, you don't have to delete customers out. You can just leave them as 0 hours worked. Maybe they completed, they're no longer doing it. Just leave them as zeros. You don't have to worry about spending a bunch of time going in and cleaning them up or removing people. The system will recognize that it's a 0 and just not calculate or put anything in for them for payroll. You also, it's going to show you here the subsidized or unsubsidized wages you guys have identified for these customers. And you need to make sure that when you're doing that, just kind of glance over these columns and make sure they're correct. If they're not correct, you can go into each of the customers' records and update those. You can also update them on the fly here, but eventually you're going to need to go back and fix it in the actual customer for a couple of reasons. One, so that the customer's record is showing correctly, but two, next time you come to do payroll, it'll be showing correctly that time, the next time as well. So you don't have to keep changing it. Once you filled it all out, you're going to save it, and then you'll be able to upload the new file that you just filled out and saved. And then if you have expenditures or other related files that you want to associate, you can upload those as well. And then you will submit, once you have it uploaded, you'll be able to submit the payroll. That will then go over as not reviewed to the DCO folks, and they will be able to go in and review and approve those payrolls and any of the related resources that you attached with them as well. I am meeting with Tara and Shannon later this week, and they're going to dive back into payroll. Kenneth had been doing that, and now that she's gone, we're going to get them all trained up so that they can keep those as getting reviewed and everything. So do be prepared to see if you have any that are marked as not reviewed. Those will start changing to approved and reviewed here before too long. Everybody needs to be using payroll. If for some reason you are not using payroll for your work experience, please send an email to me, Tara, and Shannon right away so that we can work with you to rectify that situation. We have come up with a pretty quick fix to get you guys caught back up. So it shouldn't be a lot of work on your end, but we can make sure that we can get the system updated with all the correct information sooner rather than later. Any questions on that?
Hey, Olivia, it's Destiny from Youth Job Center. I had a question.
Yeah.
So I was one of the ones who was deleting the youth who wasn't getting paid for that pay period. So should I go back in and add them or just leave it as is? Okay.
You can leave it as is. It's more, you don't have to delete them, and it might save you a couple minutes of time. If you deleted them, it's not going to cause any issues. But in the future, you can just leave them as 0 and get back maybe a minute or two of time that you had to spend going in and just clicking around to remove them.
Okay, thank you.
This payroll is from the time the participant started the work-based learning. Yeah, so you will upload payroll starting from when they entered work-based learning to when they completed work-based learning, and you will do it based on their payroll schedule. So I did a whole month. You might have people that are bi-weekly or weekly. Whatever that is, whatever payroll you guys decide to go with is how often you will upload that. If you need to backdate, you can, like if you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to do it for 2 weeks and they were getting paid every week. The system will allow you to do whatever time frame you want. But when you go to like upload related files, make sure you're uploading copies of all the pay stubs and payrolls for those customers to have that information in with them. Any other questions? Alrighty, so I'm going to move on to the next topic I have, which I have a feeling is going to be the topic most folks are wanting to talk about, When we met prior to the holiday break, I informed everybody that I was going to be doing some eligibility reviews of all the customers. I had found when I was doing some work that some folks were not verifying all eligibility requirements and still moving forward with enrolling customers. As part of the program policy, you do have to verify all of the eligibility items in order to ensure that they are eligible. We put some additional checks in place in the system to help better catch that for and with you guys. But we need to go back and clean up some of the customers that were moved forward with being enrolled and didn't necessarily have everything verified. So on Monday, I sent out an email to all of the organizations who had customers who met that situation or had some kind of eligibility discrepancy. Not all of our grantees did. Several of them only had, 1 to 3. Some of them, there were a few more, but it was like a common issue that kind of rolled through all customers that we can easily get corrected and then apply to everybody. So I just wanted to take a minute to walk through that one more time and what that kind of looks like. And then once we're finished, I'll open it up to any public questions that we want to ask that will be recorded. And then we're going to stop the recording and go into more customer specific questions. That way we can take a look at some customers. Obviously, we don't want to record and share any customer information, so we'll stop the recording so we can take some closer looks and look at some actual examples. And then I'm going to stay on even after 10 o'clock and be here to provide help and answer questions for anybody who has some specific customers they want to look at. I will also be available via webinar or phone the rest of the week and next week to walk through these with you guys to make sure we can get them all cleaned up. I gave everybody till Friday to get these addressed or get an email to me letting me know why they aren't addressed and when they are going to be addressed by, because I know some of you might not be in contact with your customers until next week or something like that. So I do know there will be situations in which you can't get everybody addressed by the 13th. Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. And I have heard back from a handful of grantees who've already got theirs cleaned up. So I am very happy to see that I have a spreadsheet and I have a lot of highlighted green rows, which means people are good and taken care of coming in. So I'm going to pull up an example customer I have here, Janice January. So what you'll do is I sent you all a list of customers. You're going to find that customer. You're going to click on their name. It'll take you into their intake page, and we're going to come down to this verify eligibility and enroll the customer section. You're going to see that the customer showing is not enrolled. So I put a check in here. Well, I didn't. Cody put a check in here that prevents enrollment unless you absolutely verify every piece of information enough to meet eligibility. So if you qualify to be eligible for the program in 6 different ways, and you meet at least one of those ways as defined by the policy, which we have on the partner guide, I'll pull that up here in a minute, then that will trigger your enrolled thing to come up. We didn't have that business logic in there before. We were expecting that people were using the policy and verifying the appropriate eligibility and then moving forward with enrollment. So you can see here, this is an out of school youth. So I'm just gonna pull this policy up here really quick. And we have the policy tag. Well, while I'm talking about it, if we look at our partner guide and we go to our full list of resources and we go down to the eligibility section, we have right here the policy linked for out of school youth and in school youth. I highly recommend doing what I did and bookmarking those. If you only serve one population, just maybe bookmark the one that's applicable to you. But it's nice to have that to quickly refer back to. I am very familiar with it, but I still have to go back and read it every once in a while because I start getting turned around in my head. So for out of school youth, it's not enough to just be low income. I need to either be low income and need additional assistance to complete an education program, or I need to be, where is it? low income with basic skills deficiency or an English language learner. So when I jump back, got too many tabs open. So when I jump back here, I have that I'm low income, but I did not verify that I also have a hard time with reading, writing, or math. So these two are kind of tied together for that out of school youth requirement to be eligible. Or my other option is that I can be eligible based on this situation. I have a disability that makes it hard for me to do certain things, which we can see right here is also an eligibility qualifier. So what I need to do is I need to go back into the eligibility determination screens and select the appropriate documentation that was used. So I'm going to jump back to education, and right here where I have unable to verify, I need to make sure that I'm selecting the appropriate documentation used to verify. So when I did my assessment with this customer, I determined that they had a hard time with reading. So I can click save and go to next tab. And then maybe I really am unable to verify the disability. I can go, did you guys catch that? So you guys don't have to click through every single page. You only have to do the ones that have the asterisks. And then once you have completed the one you needed to clean up, you can click these to navigate through it. So I can click other, and then I can click save and go to next tab. It's going to ask me if I'm ready to do eligibility, determine eligibility. And now I see that my customer is determined eligible for the program. It also lets me know, as an FYI, this customer may also qualify for WIOA Title I Adult and WIOA Title I Out of School Youth. They're qualified for YCP, our program. So now when I go back to the customer's intake page, I'm going to refresh it so it can look at that new determination I did. My enrollment status is now there. So my customer is enrolled.
Olivia,
Yes.
can you go back to that where it still show unable to verify?
Yes. Is this what you're talking about right here?
Yes, so even though it's showing unable to verify, how are you still able to, why did it show there was now enrolled? What was the difference?
Yeah, so before I also had that they were unable to verify hard time with reading, writing, or math. And so that's where this policy comes into play. So in order for my customer to be eligible as an out of school youth, they have to be between the ages of 16 and 24, which my customer was, and meet one or more of the following. So my customer was able to become eligible because they were low income and basic skills deficient. They had a hard time with reading, writing, and math. They could have also, maybe I couldn't verify low income, I could just verify the disability. They still would have been eligible. The goal here is that they need to meet at least one of the policy eligibility requirements for either in school or out of school youth. And when I had two that were unable to verify, I couldn't meet a single one of the items 1 through 8. But once I got this one, I was able to meet eligibility based on item 3A, 3 and A. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just looking more so that because it was still saying unable to verify, I thought still you would have to still verify it, but okay, I got it.
Yeah, and that's where it gets a little tricky, and that policy is really helpful. Some customers may say, may have 6 different eligibility things that come up that they could meet. You want to verify as many as possible. If I were to also have verified this, they still would have been enrolled and it would have been grand. But the minimum that you need to have them enrolled is at least one of the eligibility requirements. But I always highly recommend that you verify as many as possible.
Gotcha.
Does anybody else have, oh, I see I have another question here in the chat that was sent to me. For male participants who have their selective service registration verified, but on eligibility determination, it still says that it's unable to verify. So you guys have to, where it has selective service, I thought it had selective service. Oh, I'm looking at a female customer who will not have selective service. Hold on, let me see. Harry, are you over 18? Let me see here. So on this, yes. So on this basic information tab, selective service, they have to be in compliance, and you do have to have something selected other than unable to verify. A majority of the people will print it out from the website, but if they have another way that they were able to verify that with you, you can select any of these. And when you're going back and doing this, if you are needing to verify, like fix any of this information or their SSN, do make sure that you get that number pulled up, because you can see here, it's going to have me reconfirm that information upon eligibility. Any other questions?
I had a question.
Yeah.
When it comes to the I need help to enter or complete educational program, or to secure or hold employment, I was wondering, I seen the options that one of them was testing by WIOA Granny. So does that mean like CASA's testing?
I am not 100% sure. I can reach out to Tara and see if she knows. And if she doesn't, we can reach out to Jim and Paula. CASA testing, yes, would definitely qualify as one, but it might be a little more broad than that. You might be able to, like, if you have other assessments that are not CASAS or TABE, you may be able to use those as well.
Okay, and then for the other evidence of requiring additional, for requiring additional assistance, does that can part-time or being unemployed go into that?
I would have to ask Tara and then send that over to Jim and Paula if she doesn't know. Would you mind, Destiny? Could you just send me an email with other evidence and the testing by WIOA, so I have that and can forward that on to Tara and make sure that we do get the answer back to you?
Okay, yeah, because the only reason why I have it is unable to verify is because I wasn't quite too sure what would it fall under.
Yeah, and I think that the other evidence of requiring additional assistance is there some of them, not a lot of them, have like self-attestation. And I'm wondering if this is kind of similar to that, but it's like the grantee is able to make that determination based on like specific situations discussed, or that they're going through, kind of like you said, like unemployed. So send that my way and we'll definitely make sure with the DCO folks, because they do all, the policy and procedure, and I'll be able to answer that pretty quickly. Let me just double check one place in the partner guide to make sure it doesn't answer it for us. Under eligibility, there is a in-school and out-of-school youth checklist that talks about documentation. Yeah, it just says the same thing here. It doesn't really elaborate. So yeah, we'll need to reach out to Jim on that. I think Jim is going to be our best one. So I'll get it sent to Tara and then loop in Jim if she doesn't know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? So that was a great example, Destiny. You weren't sure which one to put, so you just selected unable to verify. I'm sure there's a handful of other people who've had that same situation where some of these documentation choices just aren't clear cut. So that's what they put. So if anybody else has other examples of that, or you're listening to the recording, you're like, hey, that's my situation too, send us an email about which specific eligibility item you're having issues on, and we can help break down some actual real life examples of what could work there. Or if you have like, this is what we have, does it work? We'll be able to get that answer for you guys super quickly so you can get it addressed. Any other questions? Alrighty, I think I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna stop the recording, and then we can go offline and look at some specific customer examples.